Welcome to the Let's Get Vulnerable podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Morgan. We are in New York City at a very special studio, and I have the most incredible guest. Welcome, Jamie C, to the show. I'm so excited to have you.
So happy to be here. I am, first off, just so honored to be on your podcast, and I'm thrilled to be here with you. I adore you so much.
We have been having so much fun.
So much.
I love it.
So much fun.
New York is amazing. I just have to say.
It's such a vibe. We went on our long walk today. We got all our steps in, saw all the places. Fun fact, did not know that you had a love for athletic wear. So
oh my gosh, you guys.
Really fun.
I took Jamie into Aloe and I was like, I really want you to know about this athletic wear because yes, as you all know, I'm an athletic wear connoisseur.
Mm-hmm. That was actually something that I learned about you because you asked me last night when we were out for dinner and you were like, well, what are you wearing for athletic wear? I was like, I think it's Paragon. I think that's what it is. I don't know. I've tried all of them.
Yes. So much fun. So much fun. And one thing I love about you is that you are so authentic. You are so real. I was telling you this, that who you are online completely mirrors who you are in person. You're better in person.
Well, thanks. I
so rare. I just adore getting to know you. I want the audience to hear your story and learn from you because you have such a powerful story.
Thank you.
You guys, in case you don't know, Jamie is an incredible entrepreneur.
Thank you.
She has built the most amazing online presence, and she is completely magnetic and teaches people how to make money, yes, how to be embodied in their businesses and have the business that they want. But she also teaches so much about the inner work, which is something I love about you.
Yeah.
You get it, right? It's like
it is the work.
It is the work. It is the work.
It's the work.
Yeah. And if you're not following her, please go follow her. She's Jamie C Official on Instagram. Seriously, my favorite person to follow.
Stop.
For all things energetics and business. Yeah, she's so authentic.
They're all the time online.
You're so consistent. It's one of the things.
I don't want to say I'm online all the time, but I show up daily.
It's amazing.
With my community. And I just have the best community too.
You do.
I mean, we found each other.
Yes, I love it.
Really awesome.
I love it. And everyone I've met in your community is amazing.
Yeah. My people are incredible. Just real, raw. You attract your people. That's just it. They find you and it vibes. It's incredible.
Yes. One of the things that I think would be so helpful to the audience is talking about healing trauma and letting go of trauma. Because we know that we cannot attract what is meant for us, whether it's the relationship, the money, the career. We can't attract it if we're holding on to our past and holding on to trauma.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your story. Yeah. And if you're comfortable, I'd actually like to start with little Jamie, like inner child.
Baby girl.
5 to...
Yeah,
15.
She reminds me a lot of my youngest daughter. I was telling you last night at dinner. She reminds me a lot. I was I'm talking to her like she doesn't exist anymore. So my little baby Jamie, she was very eccentric. She was like the sparkly cowboy boots and also always dirty, just always like. No matter how much my mom would clean me, I'm just like ended up just looking filthy. Just what is that
tomboy
Peanuts character that always has like the dirt pile around them? Like I don't know, like the little I don't know what that is.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, it'll come. But essentially, it was like that, but I had some sparkle to it. Right. And I was always singing and dancing. And I remember my grandmother asking me, she's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm like, I want to be a waitress. I want to be a waitress. I want to go help a bunch of people. I want to give them food. I want to go do all these things. And I just always singing and dancing and laughing. And, I see so much of myself in my daughter because she is very much that way. And for a lot of people, you become almost too much for a lot of people, right? It's like you're, quiet down. Okay, stop taking up so much space. And so you kind of learn to shrink you learn to adapt. And yeah, I think that was pretty much my childhood. I immediately remember myself. I had this like red stool. It had the alphabet on it, and I'll never forget. And then I had this Disney nightgown, and I put on these fancy little boots, and I would get up, and I had this little pretend microphone, and I would sing songs. And my dad was always taking home movies of us.
Mhm.
And I just have so many home movies of my sister just telling me to be quiet. It's just it's quite literally my life now with my two daughters. You know, my oldest Charlotte is always telling Lily, "Stop it, you're so loud." So it's like living my childhood all over again. And I find myself always allowing my youngest to take up space. And if we're in a space where obviously we need to keep our voices quiet, then she will. But if we're in the living room, you know, I'm like, hey, you know, Charlotte, my oldest, if, you know, this is a public space, if you want a little bit of quiet time, you can go up to your room, you can go into other spaces. And allowing my youngest to be able to take up space the way that I wasn't, because I never want her to feel like her voice is too much. I don't want her to feel too much.
How do you think that this impacted you, that early on messaging of don't be too much, don't be too loud? How did it impact you?
Well, I feel like I started to recognize pretty early on the way that and obviously now doing a lot of inner work, I know that this isn't true, but this is the way that my brain put the pieces together when I was a kid, which was my truth growing up, but not universal truth. And I found that if I am more quiet, if I keep to myself, I'm more lovable. I'm accepted. And there was nothing more that I wanted than to be loved and accepted by my family, by my mom and my dad. And, you know, they were doing the best they could. They just, you know, they were moving through life with the tools that they had. But it kind of carried on as I got a little bit older, where I started to recognize, and I love my mother dearly. This is nothing against her. We've done so much work to build our relationship back to what it is now. And it's amazing. But I think she had this idea of what she wanted me to be, what she wanted me to look like, what size she wanted me to be. So she would often say, like, "Are you sure you're going to wear that? Like, are you sure that's what you're?" And I would just be like, "Oh, okay, fine. I'll just wear something else." Or just, "Oh, okay, let's go get you the best clothes that you always look your best." And she was doing her best, right? But I'm like, but what if I just want to wear these sweatpants with the holes in them a little bit longer? I actually did have a pair of sweatpants in high school. I mean, looking back, I don't blame my mom. They were just so raggedy, but I love them. And being an entrepreneur with ADHD, we can all relate to having like a hyperfixation, like comfort clothing, right? Right now, mine is like this big oversized green sweatshirt. But then in high school, mine was these like Abercrombie ripped sweatpants, and they had holes. I wore them so much that they just had holes in them, and I would have to wear boxers underneath so that I could actually wear them. And my mom threw them away one time without telling me. Ooh. I was like, "Mom." And like, I don't blame her now. I probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah. As you're talking, I think one of the things that stands out to me is kind of losing some of your self-trust.
Oh, 1,000%.
Right. It's like having a parent that is second guessing your decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And obviously it's out of love and care, but
of course,
the desire to control maybe impacted you and being able to trust yourself and even know what you were feeling on the inside.
Yes, 1,000%. And I feel like as I got older too, it started to show up again and again, this kind of thought process of, if I stay small, I am lovable. If I stay quiet, I am accepted. If I don't get the tattoos that I really, really want, then I'll be okay, right? And just kind of really abandoning all of the things that I actually really truly wanted for myself, and then guessing, is that actually what I want, or am I rebelling? But then I realized it just wouldn't go away. And I was just like, okay, well, I remember the first time I really wanted to cut my hair short in high school. And my mom was like, "No, you're not going to cut your beautiful long hair. You have thick, gorgeous hair." I did it anyways. And I started to find that right around high school, that's when it started to rebel. I started to rebel a little bit more. but it was like subtle. It was subtle. I think the first time that I actually started to really rebel was actually out of a trauma response. I grew up being an athlete. I was very heavily into sports. I was a softball player, and I was in track. I did all the things. I was on the swim team, and in middle school, I was just basically everyone in my friend group was on the sports team. We were all on the softball team together. So you start to create this community of people and your friends, and you're going to, go and practice together, and you're, running laps together, and you're going to the games together, and you're getting on the travel bus together. And then I entered into high school, and when I was 14, I had gotten on the varsity team, which I was like, oh my God.
That's a big deal.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I remember, being really, really proud of myself. And then sophomore year, I didn't even make the team. So not even JV, not varsity, and all my friends were there. And it was like the first big, like, I have no idea how to handle this. I have no idea how to navigate, like, who am I if I'm not on the sports team? Like, who am I when I'm like, how am I spending my time?
Yeah.
Where are my friends, And I remember being really embarrassed. I had a lot of shame around it. And I think my parents didn't really think it was that big of a deal, but I found myself starting to hang out with the older boys and older girls and go to parties and spent the majority. Then it was started to, like, the quintessential college years I did when I was 15.
Yeah. As you were describing that, it wasn't just not making the team, it was completely rocking your identity.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Like, who am I if not this?
Yes.
But also, what I'm good enough to be on varsity.
Yeah.
Like, I've been playing sports forever. How did I not make the team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I want to talk to you about is just how you kind of grew out of that belief that we talked about in the beginning about being too much, not being able to take up space. When did you first start to realize that was a belief that you had, and when did you start to shift it?
I think I started to recognize its awareness. Well, not consciously, but physically, because obviously every belief that we have doesn't really show up as like, hey, the reason you feel uncomfortable is because of this, and this is what it comes back to. You just start to feel resistance, or you start to feel your throat start to close up, or procrastination, or like these behaviors of trying to shrink, right? It kind of starts to show up as people pleasing, right? Just like, okay,
yes,
this shadow of yourself. Like, it's just not truly who you are, right? So it started to show up around when it was right when I started to go out on my own, because I was a hairstylist. A little context. So in high school, I always was creative as well. I was always really into art as well. Painter, all the things. And I decided I wanted to go to cosmetology school, and I was really, really drawn to doing that. And I knew pretty early on that I wanted to do that, but my mother had said, like, that's not what smart women do. That's not what we do. Like, you need to go to college. And I was like, I don't like school in general. Like, the idea of going to college, I think, might kill me. Like, I can't keep doing everything for everybody else. And I think it was the first time I was like, I don't care. I'm not going to college. I'm finally doing something for me. Like, I'm finally going to dress the way I want to dress. I finally want to. It was just this moment of doneness, what I call like the I'm done moment, right?
Yes.
And so I went to cosmetology school, and I then, worked for a company for about almost a decade. And, during that time I was broke, but I was anxious. I just had all this unresolvedness lingering. Although I got to have my dream job, right? I was like, yeah, I finally get to do the thing, but I'm still not happy. I still don't feel good, right? And so I think the first time that I realized, like, I need to take up space was when I went out on my own after 10 years after I gave birth to Charlotte, my oldest, who's 11 now, be 12 in October. And I just remember giving birth to her, and it was like, you just go along life and you're like kind of accepting things as they go. And okay, I'm anxious. All right, that's just part of what it is. I'm sad. Okay, that's just what you are now. Okay, you're suffering. Okay, I guess that's just how life's going to be. And then I gave birth to her, and it was like my world just flipped upside. It was like a 360. It was like I looked at her and I was like, I don't think I can do that anymore. I can't accept that as my life. Like I have to change. And I don't think I really understood how, but I knew something needed to change because I couldn't accept that she was going to have a mother who accepted being anxious all the time or having self-hatred and self-loathing or having an eating disorder, or being depressed all the time, being broke all the time, you know? And I just like, I'm going to change for her. And at that time I had probably 1 ounce of self-worth. And I really did it for her in the very beginning, if I'm being super transparent, because sometimes you don't really have anything to anchor into when you don't believe in yourself, right? And you have to do it for either a younger version of yourself or a future version of yourself or somebody that you love or a partner. In this case, it was Charlotte. And it was the first time I was like, all right, I'm going all in. And I think that was the realization, like, I'm going to have to do some brave shit. I'm going to have to do the things that scare me and it's going to rock my world. But at the end of the day, like, I don't have a choice because she deserves a life that she can look back and be like, wow.
That's so beautiful.
Really fucking cool that that's my mom.
It's so powerful when you tell that story, just realizing that in that moment you decided she's going to have a better model. She's going to get to do things differently.
Yeah, it was the moment that I was like, I want her to have a life that's unlimited, that feels so good, that doesn't have any type of restriction or limitation. She can be herself. She can feel fully loved. And yeah.
That's so beautiful. I love
Thank
it.
you.
Tell me about starting to feel your feelings. Right? Because you and I've talked about this of like some of the coping skills that you learned were to not feel your feelings and maybe, you know, some hyper independence and just kind of being able to go through life without being as connected to your emotions. So what was that like to learn to start to really feel things?
So I didn't start to actually feel things until I'm actually trying to paint the pieces, like put them together. When were they all woven together? Because there was a significant moment when I remember, there it is. I knew it was going to come. It's like a little fuzzy Polaroid that wasn't fully developed. But Charlotte was 5. She was 5 years old. So I had spent all of her early years not teaching her how to feel. And she is oh my God, she's just magnificent. I'm just so amazed by her. She felt so intuitively to feel her feelings, and she would cry a lot. She would be so available to her emotions. And I would always shh, no, stop crying, stop crying, stop crying, stop crying. So she learned to quiet down pretty quickly because I didn't really realize that didn't realize that was me carrying that on.
Yeah, that was what you learned.
I just learned just to shush. So I said, well, I don't know how to feel feelings and your feelings are making me feel uncomfortable. So I'm going to make you quiet because I don't know how to feel. And my husband also is the same. And so we were just a family of that. We both grew up. We don't feel feelings. We don't talk about our feelings. We don't dive deep. We're not emotionally available at all. So it wasn't until I went to this one retreat and there was this activity where you had to do this inner child healing. And I remember I didn't stop crying for probably the moment that happened until I left, which was like, it was a 3-day retreat. Wow. And I called my husband. I was like in the fetal position. I go, I can't stop crying. Like it just cracked open. And I knew, I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to do a lot of fucking work. Like it just didn't, because you know how sometimes you just go and you move and you do it and you go and you move and you do it. And then all of a sudden you're like, there's no turning back. The floodgates are open.
I always talk to my clients. It's like that closet in your house where you just put everything that you don't want to deal with. Yep. And then when you first open it and then everything comes out crashing down on you and you're just sitting there like, it's so overwhelming when you haven't felt your feelings.
And that was the first time where we started actually when she was, fairly shortly after that, because once I'm in something, I'm like, okay, I'm all in. I can't go back. There's no way I'm going back.
Yeah.
So I learned all the tools. I did all the things. I started going to therapy. I started to journal my feelings. I was reading all the books. I was doing all of the things, right? And I remember starting to do a thing with my husband and with my daughter. We would sit down and I gave him a journal and I said, okay, at the end of the day, we're just going to write down all of our feelings and all the things that we're feeling and all the things that we went through during the day. And then we're just going to and then we'll say at the end of it, do I want to talk about it? Do I want a hug? Do I want anyone just to listen? Do I want support or solutions? Do I want someone to help me through it? And at the end of it, we'll go around and we'll say, okay, I can share or I can not share. So that I would go and be like, no, I don't want to share. I feel good. And then sometimes, my husband would be like, actually, I want to read what I'm going through. And I actually just want you guys just to sit and listen if that's okay. So she's there, 6 years old, just listening to her dad emotionally open up and us hold space for him and then give him a hug after and just give him the aftercare that he needs. And then she would read what she was going through and she would say, I actually really want some help to go through this. And then we would give her actionable steps to do that. And then I would do the same. And we just made it like a ritual to be able to open up, but also to make a practice of just getting the things that were in our bodies on paper, but with the safety of knowing I didn't have to share it if I didn't feel comfortable.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful. I feel like you broke the pattern just by doing that, right? I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was really, really helpful. And honestly, it was, we were all dealing with it together because my husband was equally learning as I was learning and we grew together in that chapter. And then my daughter was unlearning.
Yes.
And it was, in some cases we were both doing that. But to me, it felt like this brand new world. But for the first 5 years of her life, she'd always been told that her emotions were bad or they were too big or she wasn't allowed. And you should see her now. She's more emotionally mature than I think anyone in her class. She has so many tools. She knows how to regulate her nervous system. She knows when, if she's feeling anxious, to go into the bathroom, put her wrists under cold water. She knows how to talk about her feelings when she's ready. She knows how to give herself space when she needs it.
It's amazing.
And it's really beautiful. It's been probably one of the best things to witness.
I love that you can take the ownership of, I didn't do it right in the first 5 years.
Yeah.
I think all parents need to hear that and kind of realizing that it's really never too late.
Never. You can change it at any point.
You can always be a better example for your kids. And I love that obviously, this was for you and it's also for your kids.
And my mom and my dad went on the journey too. I was healing my relationship with my mom and my dad. And they learned tools and, my mom had more self-awareness and my dad. And it's been just a really, really incredible experience overall.
Yeah. I get a lot of clients that have questions about how to heal the relationship with their parents. And I think because it is such a challenging thing to go through, because obviously growing up, you had to depend on your parents for survival. So your brain doesn't allow you to see the ways that they're not meeting your needs because you need them for survival. So then as an adult, you then have all these new ways that you're aware of how they failed you, right? And we also then have to get to this place of forgiveness where we know they were doing the best that they could with the tools that they had. And then if we're really, really brave, we can have conversations with them and we can try to redefine the relationship. And change
I've gone
it.
through all of those stages.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
Right.
Because before I wrote my book, You Rewritten, it's all about becoming the author of your life and being able to take full accountability and ownership of your experience. And I remember writing a letter to my mom. And I was still living at home. So it was probably, I moved out when I was in my early 20s, 21, I think I moved out. And actually, I think it was 20. And then I wrote a letter to her about my feelings. And I remember she cried and then couldn't talk about it. And then I remember trying to mention something to her, and it was the response of, no one should have a kid. They just fuck them up anyways. And it was this like, I don't think we're ready. I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah.
And she, she still to this day just is working through it the same way I am. Just being able to hold accountability for not being able to have the tools that you had. But, like I'm only ever approaching it with love.
Of course.
I love her more than anything on the
Yes.
planet. And I want us to have a really beautiful relationship, which we do now. And it's
that.
so incredible. Like I call her all the time. We talk about everything. We have boundaries with each other, which is so great. And, she's always just checking. She's like, am I doing okay? Like, am I keeping up with my boundaries? I'm like, you're doing so great. Thank you. Everything you're doing is so good. Thank you.
I love it.
And then I'll always ask, is there a better way I could be a daughter for you? Like, is there any way that I could show up more differently for you? And we talk and hang out and do fun things together. And she's an amazing grandmother.
See, and because of your willingness to have those tough conversations and redefine the relationship, then you get to have intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
When we don't make those changes in the relationship or we don't redefine a relationship, then we just get resentment, distance. We have to pull away.
Yeah.
So it's such a form of love that you were willing to work through the messiness with her.
I also accepted the fact that if she was never willing to meet me there, I still was going to do the work myself.
Yes.
And I would have to be okay with not having a relationship moving forward. And that was a boundary I put up. I said, if this is not going to be this, I can't do it. And I knew that it meant I would have to give up really beautiful relationships that I wanted to heal.
Yes.
And I knew either way, I'm going to be okay. But I want this to work.
It's so powerful.
But if there's not the receptive energy coming back, I wasn't going to make that mean I failed in some way or that this was never eventually going to work, but also that it's okay if I needed to close that chapter for me to be able to live a life that I wanted to live.
And I think there's so many people even that are, in the audience who can relate to, okay, wow, I'm not able to have that relationship with my parent.
And that's a very real situation for a lot of people. And I knew that going in.
Yes.
I knew that saying, I'm going to do the work and I want this relationship to work. I don't want it to be the way that it is. It's not working. It's not functional. It's not healthy. And it's okay it's not okay because it's never okay. It never feels okay to have to put that wall up because I never wanted to not have a relationship with my parents,
Yeah.
But in some cases, they're not there yet. Yeah. They're not able, and sometimes they're never there.
You have to meet people where they're at and really understand people's capacity. Yeah. It's about their capacity. It's not about you being enough, right? Mm-hmm. It's about their own capacity.
Yeah.
So I love that you had that shift for yourself because then you're able to approach that conversation as authentically and honestly as you need to without attachment to the outcome.
Yeah.
So
Which is
powerful.
a practice.
It is.
And one of the biggest practices that I teach.
Yeah. And one thing I love about kind of doing this inner child work and realizing how the relationship with our parents impacted us, it then takes us down this journey of how do I become my most emotionally available, loving, kind, self-compassionate parent for myself. And you, JB, are an incredible example of that. I mean, I watch you do it. How did you learn how to parent yourself so well?
I think that it came down to it's a practice. It's a choice you have to make every single day. It's not something that you just learn and then you just learn one time and then it's just there. It's something you have to fully embody and choose every single day. And I think it came from the pure love that I had for my husband, for the pure love that I had for my daughter, and the way that I always met them. When she would make a mistake, I'd love her. When she made a mistake, I would give her a hug. I would meet her with compassion. I'd tell her to be brave and get up again and ask her what she needs. And there was no story of mine that could exist if I wasn't reflecting that back to myself. It needed to come back to me because, number one, how helpful is it to be hard on myself or to put a rush on myself or to make myself feel like I have to be something I'm not, or to put so much judgment on myself, because I would never do that to her.
That's so beautiful.
And so I just chose every day that the way that I love her and the way that I love my husband is the way I choose to love myself. And any time that I feel pressure, judgment, this urgency, anything that was showing up in my body, I would just meet it with love. And it's okay. It's all right. It's okay. You're okay. I started to look at myself, and I would now it just comes naturally, but I would go up to the mirror, and I couldn't even look at myself in the eyes without crying. There had been so many years of just not even be able to look at myself, and just being like, you're doing so great. I'm so proud of you. And then I would just spend a little extra time, like put my mascara on. I'm like, look how cute you are. You're so cute. Look how good you're doing. You're doing so great. And I talk out loud to myself a lot.
Yeah.
So I would get, I even just like come home from work, and I would park my Jeep in the garage, and I would close the door and be like, I'm really proud of you. You did a really good job today. It's okay that you didn't get all the things done that you need to get done today, but you know what? I think you did fucking great today.
I love that so much.
Yeah. And I would just give myself a pat on the back and just tell myself I'm proud of me.
You embody so much self-love and self-compassion. And I think the thing that is amazing is it's also felt by the people around you, right? And it's that whole thing of course, you can only show up for people as well as you can show up for yourself. So I think obviously that was kind of one of the things that got you to start that journey is, how can I show up for other people? But also to realize just how amazing it's been for you and your own healing journey. And then how that has become now this amazing space and community that you've created where you're literally helping like thousands and millions of people.
It's incredible.
It's just so cool. That one decision that you made, right? To heal, to show up differently for yourself, how that has now impacted so many people. It's incredible.
Yeah, every single day I have messages of people like, I was praying, and all of a sudden, I found your TikTok. I was asking God to send me a sign on something, and I found you on Instagram. And all these people were like, you've changed my life with 6 TikTok videos. And I'm like, wow, it's when I say like detached from the outcome, when we were just mentioning that before, I think that every single person who, chooses to show up, either whatever journey you are with, in this case, entrepreneurship, and you start to choose to show up and in your full authentic energy, which is a practice. There's nothing more that you want than for it to be well received and for your words to actually feel like they matter and mean something.
Yeah.
Because they mean something to me when I say them. But to be able, there's nothing better. That is always the outcome, is to have helped someone.
To be of service.
Absolutely.
You embody that so much. You are so heart-led. It's so felt.
Thanks.
And I love getting to see how many people you impact. One thing I want to talk with you about, because I get a lot of questions about this, is body image. You and I talked about this a little bit.
Yeah.
We have some similar parts of our journey where I know for me, there was times where I really approached health and fitness from a shame place.
Oh, yeah.
I had a time in my 20s where I vividly remember running on the treadmill for 2 hours a day. And I would just repeat to myself, like, you will get the guy to like you once you're skinny enough. And it was all, for me, a lot of it was about like getting romantic love and getting the guy to want me. And I had all kinds of terrible ways I went about it.
Yeah.
So that's just one example of how not to approach our body image, right? And how it can be just so damaging when we're approaching it from judgment. But tell me about your journey. And obviously you and I have been talking about balancing our hormones.
Oh my God, it's been such a beautiful journey.
And just feeling so good. And like both of us kind of being in this place where like, we love our bodies, like take me through your journey of how you got to where you are now.
Well, it started, I think my first I first kind of remembering I wanted to start to change my body was, again, probably around the same time as the softball. It was around the same time as the drinking. And it really came up as a coping mechanism. And I felt out of control. So for me, it was not so much to get thinner, but it was to feel in control of something. And if I could control, I was looking for predictability, right? But probably not in the safest way. But I was also raised in in the culture and in my household with already a sense of food is morality around food and how much you're eating and how much you should be eating and the size of your body. Like that became like very, very much an awareness point in probably my high school years.
Can I ask you something? Because this was what happened for me, is that I felt like I got the messaging that your value was tied to the size of your body, like that you're worthy at a certain size.
Yeah, I don't mean to keep bringing up my mom. I mean, I love her so much, but it's generational. Is that, thinness is something to strive for. And you don't really know how to understand that aside from starting to restrict and restrict and restrict. And then you get all of the confirmation that, oh my gosh, you look amazing. God, you look so good. Oh my God, you look so good. And then you pair that with very, very low self-worth and nothing is ever good enough. And I remember I was at my lowest weight and I started to have seizures and I was just very unwell. And I remember my dad saying something to me, which I always thought was really interesting because he had never mentioned anything about my body. It was never a conversation with him. But he just goes, "Are you okay? What's going on with you? Like you're not like it just kept shrinking and shrinking and shrinking because I just wanted someone to say something to me. I don't think I almost did it. Just like, please notice that I'm not okay. Like someone please help me."
Yeah.
And it was like this very much like I'm doing it for control, but also like I don't know how to ask for help and I'm not okay. And every time I ask for help, I'm told that I'm hypochondriac and I'm told that I'm okay and I'm not okay. And it's a very strange mental war to go through on how to ask for help when you don't know how to, know? So I think my shrinking body was a cry for help for a lot of years, but no one helped. So I just kept doing it. So I think that it got to a point too where I started to associate love with my body as well. And I remember my first heartbreak. Oh my gosh, it was awful. I loved that boy so much. And I just wanted him to love me. So then I just kept shrinking again and shrinking again. And then all of a sudden I remember he was a smoker and he would like pick up cigarettes once in a while. And I was like, well, I want to be a smoker now too, because I just want to think of him. It was just this like connection piece, right? So I'm like probably just really at my unhealthiest at that point, right?
Yeah.
So taking up a lot of things that were not okay for me. And from there, I remember getting to a point where I started to work on my self-image. I started to choose, the self-hatred wasn't as bad. But I recognized that the habitual act of gaining and losing was, you go on a diet and then you lose weight. And so now I'm also taking in all of this societal skinny diets. I mean, on every cover of every magazine was, all the skinny models and, cellulite is bad and all of the things. And you're taking it and you have no idea what's happening. You have no idea that you're being fed and you're consuming all of this content that is telling you that what you're experiencing and all of the hardship that you're experiencing is what you're meant to experience because you're meant to be thin. So this is just how you're going to have to do it. It's just what you're going to have to deal with. So I kind of was easing out of the self-hatred and just going on every diet. And I felt that was okay. And then I remember being, so I would, just my poor husband too. He would just be like, oh, here we go again. We're going on the raw diet. Now we're going to do keto. Now you're going to do the Whole30. And now you're going to do Weight Watchers. And now he just loved me so much. He's like, okay, well, guess it's just what we'll do. And it wasn't until my best friend came over for dinner and I was like, Nick was like, oh, okay, well, he was like meal prepping, right? And he's like, oh, okay, well, this dinner has like 500 calories. Is that okay? And both my kids are standing there, right? And they're young, right? And I was like, oh yeah, 500 calories. I was like, that should be, is there any way we could do it for less than that? Like, I would really love to not have so much for dinner. And kids get to sleep and my best friend sits down next to me. She goes, you still have an eating disorder. And you're not okay. And I go, what are you talking about? And she risked it. Like, she really, like, I don't think a lot of friends would have said that, but she's like, she had recovered from an ED as well. And she was just like, you're not okay. She's like, when do you think that this will ever end? Because I would lose the weight and then I'd feel anxious. And because my brain was like, you can't keep this up. You can't keep this up because then you're going to binge eat and then you're going to get it all back and then you're going to have to do it again. So it never felt safe. It never felt sustainable. It was always hard. I was always anxious all the time. And I didn't realize how much of my anxiety actually was that. It was just showing up in life all the time. So then after that, it was probably 2 days after she had that conversation with me that I vowed to never go on a diet again. I went on an intuitive eating journey and I allowed myself to rebuild my relationship with food fully and completely, to find neutrality, to allow myself to eat whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, to learn how to listen to my body. I learned how to recognize my fear foods and fully allow myself to eat and learn how to listen to my hunger cues and to be with my body. And I just fell in love with her all over again. Just like, well, probably for the first time, honestly. And then recently, and so that went on for about 3 years, my intuitive eating journey. And every intuitive eating journey is different. Everyone's body responds differently, but I had been restricting for so long that my body needed to gain weight. It just needed to.
We have to pause for a second for the audience. She said 3 years. I feel like everybody just wants to be like, boom,
3
done,
years.
and I think the beautiful thing is you allowed your body to take the time that it needed. You listened.
Yeah. For the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
And I just remember being so much happier. I mean, there was grief. There was a lot of grief. All that wasted time and all of that, years of hating what I looked like. I was never thin enough. I was never pretty enough. It was never enough. Just no matter what weight I was never, even if I got to the goal weight, it would still feel awful, So I ended up, after 3 years, deciding, I really want to be my athlete self again.
I love this.
And I felt really tied to softball Jamie. And I always would look at, because I always know that and you know this just as much as I do, whenever you see somebody who has something that you desire, you either feel that jealousy or that like, ooh, right? There's like this feeling in your body. And every time I saw an athlete, every time I watched the Olympics, every time I was like, I want that. I want to be that. Like, that's me. That's who I am. And I had to find my journey back to that. So I had to rebuild my relationship with movement on top of intuitive eating, because every time I was moving my body, it was to shrink and it wasn't to be stronger. So I started weight training and it was so stretchy. Ooh, boy. Right. Rebuilding your self-identity is some work, but now I'm the strongest I've ever been. And
I love it.
Balancing my hormones.
I love that it's from this place of you love your body. You see yourself as an athlete. It's an identity place. It's a loving place. It's a loving place. And it's not about, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not about a certain end result.
No.
But it's about, this is what feels good for me and my body, and this is who I really am.
Yeah. Yeah. It just feels good to feel like an athlete again and to be and to identify as one.
Yeah.
Because I did for so long.
Yeah. I so relate to this of, I don't know, I'll just say what I thought when I went on my own like healing journey with my body. I was so worried that I would just be like, oh, I'm never gonna feel strong, or I'm never gonna like actually be in love with my body, but I'm gonna be self-compassionate. I'm gonna feel better. But here's the crazy thing. when you do really heal and really do that internal work, you do take care of your body really well.
Yeah.
It's not like you don't ever work out again, but the motivation, like the drive for it and the source of it from where it comes from is love instead of hate, right? It's celebration, it's improvement, it's I want to be stronger. It's not, ooh, I want to shrink or I need to be a certain size so that I'll be loved.
Right.
So I think it's just so important to get to that place where you talked about this, internally you shifted and then you were able to approach your fitness from such a different place.
Yeah. I mean, it's like right now I feel like it's just the beginning too.
I love it.
Like I just know that I'm only going to I'm going to be 38 this year. And I'm like, I can just imagine me being like my strongest self at 40.
I love it so much.
Right. Like I just can imagine. And I also, back in the day when people would affirm me and they'd be like, oh my God, you look so great. But I was like the smallest and most miserable and depressed and anxious version of myself. And now people are like, wow, you look so strong.
Yeah.
Like, wow, you look like you lift. Like what are you doing? You look like you spend a lot of time in the gym. I'm like, I do.
You guys, she carries her own suitcases. She puts them into her Jeep. She does not
My husband even asks me to help him lift heavy things now.
I love it. It's amazing.
And I'm like, because he's like, yeah, you're strong. You can do it. I was like, hell yeah, I am.
It's an identity shift. I love it.
It's been so fun.
It's amazing. I love this. And I think, what would you want to say to someone listening who's struggling with loving their body? Where would you encourage them to start?
That's a really great question. Oftentimes I like to reflect it back to what is the advice you would give to someone you love? Bring it back to love, right? What are you searching for within that, right? And we'll think about how you would talk to somebody, your best friend, anyone that you was struggling with body image. Like, what would you say to them, right?
Yeah.
It would never be to change your body, right? It would always be, hey, you're amazing. You look great right now. I love you. You're doing so great, right? It would never be like, oh, you're struggling with body image. Maybe you should lose 10 more pounds, right? It's never that advice, but that's generally the advice we give ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, maybe if I just lose another 10 pounds, I'll be better. Maybe if I just lose more, I'll be better. It's like, no, the call is always coming from inside the house. Let's just be honest. Like, it's always coming back to, what am I wanting to feel when I'm at that? Like, what are the feelings I'm searching for that I think my dream body is going to give me?
The lie you've told yourself about how you're going to feel once you get to a certain place. And how can we say, whoa, well, how do I feel that now?
Yeah.
Right?
How do I feel it now? And I always say, like, even though I'm maybe not as strong as I want to be yet, I still say every day, it feels so good to be in my strongest timeline. It feels so good to be in my, happiest timeline. It feels so, even if I'm not fully there yet, like, how would I show up if I was? Like, that's what you do every day. And, there's going to be days where you don't feel it. And you may need to lean on people for some support. You may need to call a friend. You may need to lean into your community. You may need to, self-soothe a little bit more, really lean into ways to support yourself. Give yourself some space and time to really be. I also think that one thing that I did was I actually really wasn't aware of how toxic it was, but I was always looking at the thinnest bodies when I was in my active ED. I'd always follow and consume content on social media of only that. And they were never even my shape body. Like, it was never even something that was achievable, And it was just constantly reinforcing that I didn't have that. So I started to follow all different body shapes and sizes, and people who were only talking about body positivity, and people who were showing up and talking about cellulite on their legs and loving their body. And I was just consuming that content only until it was normal in my body.
Unfollow anyone that gives you that thought of, wow, I don't like my body, right? Yeah, I love that. And because we do have to be so vigilant because it's everywhere. All the messaging.
Everywhere.
It's literally everywhere.
Once you start to go on that journey, you will start to, it was actually really hard. It's been a heartbreaking journey, honestly, because it's everywhere.
It is.
It's in every food. It's, it's in, diet this and low calorie this and all the things. And it's, it's on every magazine. It's every topic. It's just this obsession with people's bodies, and it's weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
So you have to get to this place where you're very aware of what your inputs are, and
There's a lot of people who aren't obsessed with bodies, and I'm going to tell you that exists.
Yes, it does.
There's a lot of content out there that's not just body focused.
Absolutely. Okay, I still have so many things I need to ask you about, so I'm going to change our topic. Okay, I want to talk about Nick, your husband.
My babe.
Your husband. You show up so big in the world. You have this incredible brand. You're so driven. You are a CEO, badass. And you have this incredible support system in your husband. Can you talk about how having that secure relationship helps you show up in your career?
Nick was the first person who ever believed in me before I did. He was the first person who actually, whenever my mom would say, "Are you sure you're wearing that?" He'd be like, "Yes, she is, Jackie. And you look beautiful," right? He was, he was always just like, "No, you are amazing. No matter what, don't listen to anything anybody is saying. Like, please do you, right? You're incredible." And I would always just be like, "I don't know," right? But then when I chose that journey, he chose it right alongside with me. He believed in me and trusted me. And he's always said, whatever you do, like, we'll always make it work. We'll always be okay. Go take the risk. Go do the things. Like, if he was already working 2 jobs, he's like, if I have to get a 3rd job, I'll do it. If we have to sell this thing, we'll do it. Like, we'll always be okay. So it's been probably the most beautiful thing. We've been together for so long. And I just can't imagine a life without having that. It just, we've grown, I feel like we've grown up together. Because we got married at, I was almost 24 when I got married. I'll be 38 now. And there's so many seasons of growth and change. And he's been there with me, growing with me, choosing me choosing him. And every step he's just like, "Fuck yeah, babe, go. Do you want to go on that stage? Go."
I love it.
Right? Biggest cheerleader.
And do you think, so obviously you and I talked a little bit about this, but you did your healing together.
We did.
Do you feel that you kind of modeled it and then he also met you, or how did that work? Okay.
Yeah. I said, "This is what I'm doing." And of course, he's like, "Sounds great. Sounds amazing. Whatever is going to make you feel great, whatever is going to make you feel good, like, I'm on board." And then, I'd sit down with him and say, "Hey, I'm noticing this. Like, would you be open to doing this with me?" When we were rebuilding our relationship with money together, he was there alongside of me doing that with me. Whenever he'd feel anxious around money, he'd come and he would talk to me about it. Whenever he was feeling anxious about something else, he'd talk to me about it. So we really did it side by side.
I love that. I talk to a lot of people who can sometimes feel a little bit of resentment that they have to be the one to help their partner heal. But I think what you're describing is so beautiful. It's not that you had to drag him into it.
No, he was a willing participant.
You modeled and then he met you.
Yeah.
So it's reciprocal in that way.
Absolutely. 1,000%.
You were both showing up for it.
Yeah. And it's been incredible because as a team, and we choose each other every single day, we only have ever wanted our relationship to be better every single day, all the time. We've only ever wanted us to grow and be more connected and have more intimacy and love each other more and be better parents and experience life together. And if that meant healing together, he was willing to do that. And I can imagine there's been some sticky points too, where, I notice him going through moments of, I'm like, oh, I would really love to interject here and really support him, but he's not willing and not open. And I let it be and I let it ride. And then I wait and I say, "Hey, is there anything I can do to support you with that?" And if he is not willing, that's fine. But he started going to therapy as well.
Love that.
That's been great. He had a pretty tough upbringing as well. So he had a lot to unpack there for his own journey. Not just our relationship and being there to support me, but really to care for him, because he was always the caretaker. And he's finally caring for himself, which is really nice.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to realize that we can only show up for our partners as much as we've shown up for ourselves. So it's so important to go on those individual healing journeys. And just how beautiful that you guys have grown together. You've seen so many different versions of each other, and you've been able to find each other through all of it and still build the secure attachment through all of it.
It's been honestly the best thing ever.
It's beautiful. And then tell me about being parents to two amazing children. I've loved getting to hear about them.
They're so incredible. I love them so much. There's just nothing like the love that you have for your kids. It's just insane. It's indescribable. It's the most horrific and beautiful thing all at once. Like, I'm always constantly worried about them and always wanting them, and then just loving them immensely.
Do you think it's healed parts of your inner child, parts of your own trauma, like being able to parent the way that you do? How has that been healing for you?
That's such a great question. I feel like I actually had a moment very recently, because I take my oldest to therapy, and she spends the first 20 minutes in there on her own, and then she likes me to come and be with her. So we're just like slowly building her to be like, 'cause originally she just wanted it to be me in there, and then the therapist is like, "Hey, Charlotte, like, I really love for us to try having just you and me for a little bit, and we'll start with like the first 15, 20 minutes, and then mom will come in." So she's been really great with that. She's been really, really good. And I sat there, I was waiting in the waiting room for the 20 minutes to go. And before I would walk in and, support her with her session. And I sat there and I just was like, I had this one of like, holy shit moments, kind of like, I broke it. Like the change happened. Like it's so cool. Like, it's so cool that I'm here with my baby, and I got to teach her and feel brave enough to go to therapy and be brave enough to be there on her own. And then for me to be here and for her to have those tools, like it's been incredible. And I'm really, really grateful. There's no part of me that ever wished that like my parents would have done that, or there's nothing that I would be like, oh, I wish I had that growing up. Like, it's just I had what I had, and I'm grateful. I had a great childhood. Like, I really did. My parents were really, truly doing the best that they could, and they were incredible. And, it's just, we deserve to feel our feelings, though.
Yeah.
We deserve to have the tools to process our emotions and to not let things stay stuck in our bodies. And that giving that gift to my children and as a family dynamic has been one of the most fulfilling things, knowing that when I'm no longer here, she will still be left with those tools.
It's so powerful. I think that's probably your greatest achievement.
I would say yes, 1,000%, hands down.
I love it.
Hands down.
You know what I love about this interview? We have not talked about entrepreneurship or business at all.
Right. I don't think it was meant to go that way.
It's so wild. And I do want to ask you, because I feel like there's people listening to this who probably have a dream. They probably want to start a business. They probably want to go do something different than they're doing now. How do you fight through the fear, fight through the resistance, and just go do the thing? You are such a beautiful example of that. So how does someone do that?
Well, I think there's some science that I think that needs to occur first for us to just like gain an understanding of what's actually happening in the body. So we have our conscious desires, which is, the things that just light you up, the things that you like feel drawn to. You may have had these dreams and desires for a very long time, whether it's going back to school, whether it's becoming an entrepreneur, whether it's launching something, whether it's, I don't know, just starting an Etsy shop, whatever the dream is, traveling the world, right? There is that's only running 5% of the outcome. Okay. The rest of the outcome of that, whether it's going to happen or not, is that 95% is actually held in the subconscious mind, which is, you could consider that like the truth. It's almost like the computer system, right? In your mind. And essentially it's a primal part of your body, and its whole job is to keep you exactly as you're programmed. And how it takes in data is from the ages of 0 up until 12, it takes everything in as truth. So the conversations that you're having, the traumatic experiences that you're having start to shape who you think you are, what you think you're capable of, what you believe money is or success is or self-identity, and what you believe you'll have to sacrifice to get there, all the stories. And even as you start to continue, that's the baseline and it's truth, very similarly to how we believed Santa was real. And he was going to come down the chimney, and then all of a sudden we realized, wait a minute, I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
Right. But we believed it.
Right.
We believed it. And it was this fairy tale and it was incredible. And the same goes for, if you tell someone Santa's real and you also tell them that they're not worth being loved, they're going to believe you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's the same thing. So it's really important to know that that is the baseline. That's the foundation. And then that basically creates the lens on your life as you move through life. So you'll have a lens basically through that kind of programming of how you show up in the world and how you take action and what you believe you're worthy and deserving of. And that subconscious mind starts to communicate because it's under the conscious level. You're not aware that it's there, but you're aware of how you feel. And that's the subconscious mind communicating with the nervous system. They're one unified system. So when you start to take action and you start to feel nervous or anxious or fearful, it's the subconscious trying to pump the brakes because the subconscious is neutral. It just says, hey, anything outside of what I've been programmed to believe, or anything that your dream is you're basically saying that everything I believe is not true. It's not congruent with the system you gave me, right? So it's I do not compute. So it's going to say no. It's going to reject that, and it's going to want you to go back to what you've programmed it to believe, right? So it's going to want you to go back to the 9 to 5. It's going to, because that feels familiar, and familiarity is predictability, and that's what the brain loves.
Yeah.
So
we're programmed for safety, not fulfillment.
Right? We're primed for safety, and we're not wired for success. We have to do that on purpose.
Yes.
So anytime you feel fear, it's not meaning it's not the path you're supposed to go on. There's nothing wrong with you. If you're feeling anxious, it's just your body's natural response to change. And that's where self-compassion comes in. That's where a lot of awareness comes in. So you can ask yourself questions of like, what am I afraid is going to happen if I reach this goal? And you can start to kind of do some self-inventory of like, oh, I actually believe I'm going to sacrifice my time, which means I'm not going to be able to spend time with my kids. And then I'm not going to be a good mom. And then that means that I'm going to be a failure. And it can go down to this big root, right, of where that's living. And you can start to reprogram that part so that you can start to take action. But a lot of times people don't recognize that part and they try to bypass the system. So they have an incongruent system of beliefs and they have this desire that does not compute. And they try to bypass it by over hustling, overdoing, constantly staying productive to try to bypass it, because anytime they slow down, they start to feel anxious. They start to feel like they tie the productivity to results, but it's usually survival mode is what we're in. So when you're in that moment of I'm taking action and I feel scared, lean into it. Know that there's nothing wrong with you. Know that it's totally normal. It's okay. And we need to be able to have some active tools to be able to access what's going on in the unconscious, but also just to meet yourself with some regulation tools of the body, getting your body to calm and relax and feel a baseline safety, because that's when clarity starts to happen. That's when inspiration and creative energy start to flow.
I love it. And this is why entrepreneurship requires the inner work.
It's 1,000%. Otherwise, you're going to be burnt out and miserable.
The best personal.
I don't mean to be so blunt about it.
Yeah, it's true.
I've run successful companies both ways.
Yeah.
One in the energy of dysregulation, one in the energy of survival mode, one in the energy rooted in trauma, and one in the energy of I believe I'm worthy and deserving and I have a mission to fulfill.
I love it.
And I feel so solid in doing that. Very, very different.
Amazing. That is such powerful advice. And I know so in alignment with what I teach about rewiring your subconscious, right?
Yes.
And it applies for everything. We're talking about career, but it applies for relationships, money, all the things.
Yes. Because you have a relationship with everything.
Yes.
A relationship with yourself, with money, with success, with your children, with family, with being seen, with visibility, with social media, with all the things.
Yeah. You're incredible.
Thank you. Sorry.
I adore you.
Thank you.
You have been very vulnerable, and I just want to acknowledge that, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I think it's really going to help people that are tuned in. So thank you for that. I ask all of my guests this, so I'm going to ask you. If you're walking down the street, random person comes up to you, and they're asking you for your best life advice of the moment, what would you say to that person today?
Best life advice. It's going to be the advice that my dad gave me, which is you only go around once and you might as well do what you love.
I love that.
You only go around once and you might as well do what you love, because there's so many times that we convince ourselves to stay small. We stay convinced to stay in jobs and places we've outgrown, to avoid the pivot, to avoid the places that we know we're actually meant for. And if you were to look back at your life, old and gray, would you have said, I wish I had done it? Or would you look back and say, that was a good fucking ride? Yeah.
That is I love it. That's amazing. And I think your story that you shared with us, the parts that you shared, are such a beautiful example of deciding to be brave. And I think also deciding to heal.
Yes.
Because that is deciding to be brave. And to allow yourself to step into that fully embodied version of you that was on the other side of it. And I'm so glad that you did, because here we are. Jamie, you're amazing. I know people want to connect with you. Can you tell us how to find you? All the things.
All the things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram and also on TikTok. It's Jamie C Official. And we've got a lot of incredible things on Instagram. We have an amazing, thriving community over there in my broadcast channel. And we also have my podcast. It's There She Rose. And it's currently in the process of a rebrand. So if it looks like a different thing by the time you're listening to this, then just, I warned you. So we have incredible things over there as well. And I'm so happy to have anyone join us and welcome us over there. For anyone who's feeling like they want to start to fully embody their, wealthiest self, most powerful self, take up a lot of space and start to create a journey of entrepreneurship, or just life that feels better than it does now. It feels easier, feels more creative, feels like you don't have so many blocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go connect with Jamie. I love learning from her. It's the energy that you have with what you teach. And I mean, it's just so much fun. You make it so fun.
Thanks.
I think that's underrated. Like, it's just so fun to learn from you.
It gets to be fun. We get to cry. We get to laugh. We get to dance.
Yeah.
We get to do all the things.
All the things. And we will have everything in the show notes. So go there. You'll be able to connect with Jamie. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. And of course, everyone, we are both wishing you high self-worth and great relationships. I'll see you soon.